What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online, you're now watching the UK's only alternative late-night talk show, and I'm Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Christine Parker, whose family have been traumatized by creatures living in the forest opposite her house. Now, Christine is the author of 2 volumes of 100 Bigfoot Nights. This true story sets out to chronicle the terrifying encounters that a residential family has had with the creature known as Bigfoot. Now, accompanied by video, photography, and audio evidence, the story is written in Christine's own words as it unfolds. Now, according to the Bigfoot investigator they contacted, they aren't going anywhere. As the world gets more crowded with us, they are left with less and less habitation. Now, they've learned to live in the shadows and pass through the forest by our homes. Now, after reading her book, just ask yourself, what would you do if this happened to you? Christine Parker, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Nice to be with you. Hi, Kevin.
It's great to have you on. And now today's course, well, today's main subject is going to be about obviously Bigfoot and the crypto creatures that are potentially living in the forest opposite your house. And it's a fascinating story, this one. And you know, it's difficult, isn't it, in 51 minutes to give it justice.
Well,
But
there's a lot that happens.
yeah. There's 2 books here as well. But to begin with, now before you moved into this property, had you ever had any interest in the paranormal?
Yes. Not interest as far as looking anything up, but watching shows on TV. Yeah. Everybody watches that stuff. Everybody watches paranormal and creatures and things like that. So yeah, an interest in spooky movies and
Yeah.
ghosts.
Yeah. And
Nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing like
no.
looking for anything, but just
No. And had
loving
this,
shows.
yeah, and sure, absolutely. And had these subjects ever been sort of discussed as a family as well? I mean, are you a sort of religious family, a sort of
No,
atheist
no,
family, or?
no. We're Catholic. Um, no, we don't discuss. I mean, I would discuss a show. We would discuss what we see on TV or something, but
Hmm.
no, we're not religious. We're not, nuts or anything like that.
Yeah.
At least I don't think so.
No, no. This is a real occurrence, and it's difficult. We're not here to convince anybody. This is just your truth, as far as you
Yes.
understand it.
Yes. Yeah, I realize that you won't convince everybody, and that's not my purpose. My purpose is not to convince anybody. It's just to tell what's happening to us and to put the information out there because it's very, very important that people know about these things and what's happening, you know.
Well, that's what's going to be my next question. Is as you've answered that, why put this out? Why do these two books?
Because we had something really bizarre happening to us, and it was very painful to be going through, and no one knew about it, and it really, when you see something like that, when something like that starts happening to you, you think that you're the only people in the world that are going through it, and it makes you feel all alone, and you feel like you have nowhere to turn. You have no one to talk to. You have nowhere to turn, and you feel very it's strange. But so I decided to write the books because other people needed to know what we were going through, and we were going through so much at the time that I felt it was important to document this part of our lives. It was important. It was important for some reason. I didn't know what the reason was at the time, but I just felt, our lives are ruined by it. And I just felt, geez, these things are getting away with murder. And, you know, we're going through this and nobody cares and nobody knows. And I kept thinking if we disappeared one night, if we were gone one day, if we just off the face of the earth, no one would know what happened to us. And I wanted people to know what happened. And that was my main concern. I wanted people to know this is what happened to us.
Yeah.
And if we're not around to tell you the story, this is what happened.
Absolutely. And now as a family, do you discuss it? Is it sort of something that will come up now and then due to the nature of what did happen, or has it sort of been a paradigm shift for you all as a family as well?
We still live in the house. We still have the issues. Not as bad because we've added additional security. I'm surrounded by cameras. I'm surrounded by sensors. I'm surrounded by alarms now. But our lives definitely have changed. We have been trying to move, and we're going to end up doing, something really drastic. But it has changed our lives completely. Not just a little bit, a lot. We try not to discuss it other than the incidents that happen. We would like it to stop, okay? That's what we want. But we can't get away from it, and so we have to protect ourselves. And in book 3, which I just finished, which is a third book, which isn't out there yet, I will tell you, it has a lot more paranormal in it, and it is scary. There are some things that happen to us that are really disturbing, and they'll be in that book. And so the second book that I wrote stopped in January of 2013. This book goes all the way from that point to about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Right.
And it's really bad. It got really bad. And I don't know. It gets more paranormal. There's a lot more to this.
Very, very interesting. And also, why call it the series of book 100 Bigfoot Night series?
Well, when I thought of the title, it was 100 days that we were up. We're up every night. We can't sleep in this house. And I figured it illustrated the amount of nights that we're awake. That's why I called it 100 Bigfoot Nights, because we were at 100 nights at the point that I decided that I was going to write the books or start documenting, start writing everything and recording it. So that's where the title comes from. It comes from the continuous, endless nights of being awake, not being able to sleep, and monitoring camera systems, audio equipment, and everything else that our lives have become, which is just, living in heck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It does not sound nice. Now, just let's go back to the beginning of the story here, in the sense of when you brought the property. From reading the books, it was too good to be true, in the sense it was so cheap, yet it was in a very bad state of disrepair, almost unlivable. I mean, there was no running water. I believe there was no electric. But had the family prior to that been living in the property? And if not, why was it? Or if so, how comes it was so run down?
Well, there was a family living in the property, and it did have electric and water, but nothing worked. The toilets didn't work. The stove was, destroyed. But when we looked at the property, when we saw it in the paper, it was it was a property that we needed the room, because we had our 3 sons and they were in college and we really needed the room. And yes, it was under the market at the time. And when we saw the property, we met the family that lived here, at least the man and the woman and 2 of the little girls. And he explained that they had foster children and that the foster children destroyed the house. And the house was cluttered and full of, it was in disarray. And so when we saw it, we really didn't look at it that well. We just kind of walked through. It was like we just want to get through it and say, okay, room. We could deal with this. Okay, we'll just clean it up and do what we have to do. Well, after we bought the property, they left. And then that's when we finally got the look at the house, got the full meat of it. And it was bad. It was bad before, but it was like your mind turns off when you see something that in that disarray. Your mind just goes, whoa, you shut down somewhere. That's the only thing I could think of was that our brains went out to lunch, and it was just the location and the rooms, the amount of rooms that it had, the bathrooms, and the price that we were looking at. And everything else we figured we could just clean. We could just do work. It took us 6 years, but we figured we could just do that.
Right. Okay, so 6 years is a fairly, long time project. It must be. Well, is it a big size property?
Yes, it is. It takes up the whole corner in the neighborhood. It's in a very nice middle-class neighborhood, and the house itself has 6 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, and we have plenty of rooms. It has 11 rooms total, or 13.
It's big,
I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's a good-sized house, and we have sons that are in college. They're full grown and they're men, and you can't put men in little bedrooms. We can't have little areas.
No.
It has 2 wings, 2 separate sides of the house, which are connected through a hallway that goes through a spare bedroom. And it has 2 stairwells. One goes up the front and one goes up the back. So it's like 2 separate wings. And so it works really well for a family where your children are going through college. And it was the opposite direction of the university, where the traffic wasn't flowing. And we were retired. And so we figured we'll just work on it. We don't mind. And I knew construction. My husband knows construction. Enough to get by, enough to do stuff. We sure know a lot more now, but you just have to work for things. You can't just expect to have everything you want without working for it. And that's how we felt.
Absolutely. But going back to the previous owners, okay, is there any contact with the previous owners nowadays? No. So
none at all. The only phone calls we get looking for them are from collectors or law enforcement. I don't know what these people did.
So they're gone. Now this property, this is opposite a forest.
Yes, but at the time when we bought the property, I didn't know that. We didn't know that. We thought it was just a vacant lot because you got houses on both sides of the street until you get to ours. And then our house is the last one that they built in the development, and it's on a corner. But across the street, there's a vacant lot. That's what I thought. It has a stream in it, and it's where the water drainage from the housing tract flows. And so, in my mind, being from California, I'm from a city. In California, you have lots, but they're just vacant lots, and there's usually, construction behind it, around it, and sometimes you get vagrants on those lots. And not being from the South, it didn't occur to me that the lot could have went further. I didn't know that until we later find out, much later that we find out that it is a forest, that it's like a neck to a forest. We
Wow.
didn't know.
So
Had no clue.
No, no, no. Yeah, and it wasn't picked. Yeah, normally, would you normally pick that stuff up on a survey? I guess not. That's not what it's there for. I suppose you just you never. Yeah, you just didn't see that this was the neck of the or of this area. And how big is this forest? Would you say is it a fair size?
It's massive.
Right.
Well,
Right.
what happened was when we looked on Google Earth, on the Google Maps. Oh my God! The neck starts from ours. It's got like a neck there. It's just a minimal piece, but it feeds into a big creek that runs down behind the housing tract, behind all the other houses. It goes up and around, and then behind it on the other side, there's just one street and there's a few houses. And then across from there, there's a park, a huge park. And then to the right of it, across another little street, there's another massive park.
Right.
And then the parks lead to more forests and just keeps going and going. It goes for miles, nearly the entirety of the state to the state below us. So it's
That's
massive.
big. That's big. Now, do your neighbours know what kind of hell you've been through?
Yes, they do.
And
Yes.
have they had any experiences like you've had?
Yes, yes. The neighbors next door had an experience in book one where they went to the forest and they came down trees at them. And they didn't know what it was. Well, actually, I told him that we had heard it. But anyway, they ran to the forest one night because their daughter heard raccoons screaming. We hear raccoons all the time. I think they kill the raccoons. And she was on the porch saying goodnight to her boyfriend, which is next door to us on the left side. And she heard the raccoons screaming. It was blood curdling. We assume it was raccoons, but that's what she heard. It was screaming. And so she ran in the house and told her parents because they feed the raccoons. And they ran out to the forest in their pajamas, trying to get out there to try to, I don't know, save a raccoon. I have no idea what they were going to do. And two things came down a tree at them. And it started breaking the branches as it came down. And when it landed, it was so loud that the ground shook. And it scared them to death. And that's when they stopped and said, whoa. And they wouldn't go into the forest. They just stopped right there. And then I heard them on my microphones. And I could see them on the camera above our garage. We had one above the garage at the time. And I ran out there to see what happened to him. And then they told me the story. And her husband had gone into the forest to look around to see what came down the trees. And that was the first night that they were chased in the forest. And that was also the first night that I saw them. It was the day before Thanksgiving. And her husband went in the forest. Then later on, my husband came out and my son, our youngest son. And then they went into the forest. And then I called the Bigfoot investigator, who was a gentleman that we had met. And he came. And that's when they chased him that night. And they searched that forest and chased him. And other things happened. But
Okay.
I know I jumped to the story.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's no. Well, what I was going to say is let's tell the audience in a sense what some of the strange stuff that's been going on is, as an example, what the neighbor had to go through, which was just mentioned there, but what you've had to go through, and what these this creature is, or creatures are, as far as you understand it now.
Okay. Well, um, we we heard it hollering one night. Okay, that's how it all began. We had lived here for several years. I have always feared that forest, and I've always seen things moving, and I always felt something around at night, and so did my middle son. Our other two sons were placing food in the forest, feeding it, or feeding, now I find out, feeding the littler animals that they would eat. So I don't know if it was providing them a snack or they were feeding other things that were coming to eat the snacks and then they were eating them. I had no clue. All I knew was there were things happening that scared me. And our house was really dark at night. We didn't have motion sensor lights then. And we would come home and you would get the sense you're not alone. I don't care where you are outside. I'd be on the porch thinking I'm not alone. There's somebody watching us. There's somebody staring. And I would see moving in the forest. Well, I thought it was just vagrants. I thought people were just staying there until it was the winter time. And then I thought, wait a minute, it's freezing out there. Why aren't they wearing coats or jackets or just lighting a fire even? But as it goes on, we heard it hollering one night. My husband set up our Halloween decorations, and he went out to adjust the spotlights, and it started screaming. And he came in the house and got me. And then I went outside, and I heard it as well. And we couldn't figure out what made the sound. It was a sound, and this is what I call it. I call it as if you're hearing sirens calling you. That would be what I would relate it to, because it's mesmerizing in the sense that you cannot believe that you're hearing it. And it's also where you figure out, I have to know what did it, because it's one of those things where you can't believe it. And we heard it, we couldn't believe it. And later on, my son, I went on the internet trying to find the sound, trying to find what sounded like it. I was obsessed. What made that sound? We knew it was an animal, but we couldn't figure out what it was. And finally, my son played a recording, and I identified it. Although I wouldn't play any of the Bigfoot recordings that I was listening to on the internet because I just thought that was ridiculous. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm not playing any of those, because I typed in howls and yells. And if you type in howls, yells, and moaning, you get a bunch of stuff on the internet. And and so I ignored everything that said Bigfoot, and I tried to listen to other animals. Well, then my son, he came in and he said, "Here, let me help." And he started playing sounds, and I was on the couch. I had a headache by then. And he didn't exclude Bigfoot. So he started playing sounds, and all of a sudden he had one, and it was it. And I thought, "Oh my God, you're kidding me." And I went to the computer and looked at it. I said, "You got to be kidding me." And then I started, how do they know it's a Bigfoot? How do they know? How do people know that that's a sound? Maybe they just said so. And you start with all this doubt and horror, and this can't be. This can't be. We live in a neighborhood. This is not happening. It's not. But the sound was identical, except the one we heard was louder. So then, of course, I reported it to a Bigfoot website, and then they sent an investigator to our house, and this is where we met him. And he came out, and the books tell. I don't know. Most people hear weird things, but the books tell how I reported it to a website that recorded these things, and then all of a sudden, an investigator showed up at our house. And then we go through this process, and it's a process of placing bait. It's a process of he's a masterful tracker too. It's a process of him tracking. It's a process of taking photographs, going in and out of the forest every day for months. Checking the traps, checking the bait. I started recording sounds. Recording it, and in my mind, which most people probably think, if you found a Bigfoot, if you say, "Oh my God, we have a Bigfoot," and you think the world's looking for them. You watch shows and they're trying to find them, and you see people saying, "Oh, we don't believe in it." And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, we found one." That's my thought. We found one. They can come and get it. They could come here and capture it and then take it, or here it is. Well, that's not at all the case. Not at all the case. Not ain't even close to what happens. But that's what I'm thinking because I'm naive. I don't know anything about these things. I would never even go near a forest because I believed in them, but I didn't ever want to be around one. I would never want to hear one. I would never want to see one. I mean, it's not something, I'm not adventurous that way. It was something I would never do. But as we got involved in the investigation, it just seemed to lead from one thing led to another, led to another. And I regret every day of it. Every day of it, I regret. I regret we ever looked into it. I regret we ever called an investigator. I regret we ever did the whole process because we have placed ourselves in danger and it is horrible.
Do you think that you upset the creature?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Do you think it's what are we dealing with here? One particular type
We're
of
dealing,
species?
no, there's no such thing as one. Okay. I find that out as well. I mean, this whole book goes through the process of how we find out things. But the first night that I saw them, okay, our investigator told us the most common type in the area. And he described it as human looking, reddish hair, like a person, like you would see on the show on TV. And, that's my picture of what a Bigfoot should look like because I don't know any better. So I'm thinking, okay, that's what they look like until I saw them. Okay, I started going upstairs with a night vision scope and scoping the forest every night. I was obsessed with wanting to see one because all these things were happening. We were finding
Night
footprints,
vision,
the
right?
food was missing. All these things are happening, and you're thinking, wait a minute, I just want to see what this thing looks like. I want to see it because it's hard to believe, but I want to see it. And so that's what I did. I started scoping the forest with a night vision scope every single night, sometimes 3 and 4 times a night. I would go up there and just watch the forest because I'm not a hunter. I had to learn everything. I had to learn what the forest looked like at night, where the trees were, where everything. You have to learn. And a scope sees everything through
Of course it does.
colors. You see shades
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
things. And it took me a long time. But the night that the neighbors, when the neighbors were going into the forest, and the forest is big, it's vast because it covers the whole corner where we can see. But the night that the neighbors, it came down the tree on the neighbors, within an hour, I could hear them. Because I learned after listening every night what the sound of them, because they bank branches and they do all kinds of things in the forest. They're not at all quiet when they don't want to be. And I thought, this is really strange. It's back. They're back. And I could hear them. I could hear them walking through the brush. I could hear the branches breaking. I could hear it. And so I went upstairs to scope the forest. And I just so happened to know the exact location where the neighbors said it came down the tree, where they came down the tree at them. And so then it narrowed down my site search. It narrowed it down to a specific area. And when I started looking through that area, oh my God, the first time I saw them, when I saw those things, I swear, I tell the story in the book about what happened. But it was then I realized they are not at all what he told me they looked like.
What do they
They
look
were
like?
nothing I'd ever seen. They were more animal looking. They looked like nasty animal beasts. Okay, they had longer snouts like a mouth with a nose at the tip of it. More like people have asked me like a gorilla. And I don't really, I should look up what a gorilla looks like. But if you had to imagine maybe something close to that, except their eyes are recessed and they're round, they're big. And they have the snout on them. It's not a long snout, but it's an animal mug. And then their nose was at the tip of the mug. And they were animal looking. Nothing could confuse them with human other than the fact that they walked upright. They have arms, fingers, and I assume, 2 feet. They walk upright, but I can't really see the bottom from the forest.
Were they covered in fur? Were they covered in some sort of fur coat?
Yes, yes. They have fur on their bodies. The one I saw during the day, okay, because I've seen quite a few of them, but the one I saw during the day, He had less fur on his chest. He had longer fur on his shoulders, hair. Hair, I think that's what they call it. It's hair. And he was itching himself. He was running his fingers from the inside of one side of his arm to the other, just going back and forth with the back of his fingers. He was like, like you'd rub the back of your arm with the other one, with your hand, with his palm facing down and the back of his fingers. And when I saw him, I'm sorry, I have to postpone this. When I saw him during the day, then I could see the fur. And at night, you see them, they just look fuzzy looking, okay? You can't really get a good grip on the fur. The only way I know the facial features is because when they look to the side, I caught the side angle. Otherwise, looking flat on, you can't tell. But he had lighter fur on his chest. And you could see his, I don't want to say the word, but he didn't have breasts, but you could see that he had a chest. And he had longer hair on the shoulders. And then it kind of thinned out as it went down.
How tall was it?
I don't really know because I was looking at it from binoculars to the window in my bedroom when I saw him. But I couldn't see his face because he was underneath the brush. But I could see his arms, and when I saw him, I just kept counting his fingers. Your mind is I just kept going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, as he kept touching himself, rubbing himself. And my mind was blown. I just kept counting and counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because you can't believe that you're seeing what's not supposed to be seen standing there in the middle of the day.
Yep.
Okay, 10 feet off the street because we have an easement on that forest, and he's right there, and he's just watching it like he does it all the time, and
well,
that one, yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say it makes you think how many of them are there.
There were a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Okay, but then this is the worst part. Okay, what I consider the worst part was I was watching them at night. Okay, watching them doing things in the evening. And then I also saw ones during the day. And this was during the month of October, November, and a little bit of December of 2012. And I'm watching the ones during the day, and they're more bold. They're walking around. They look different than the ones at night. Now, I did see them together at night. However, the ones during the day were much different. Okay, and I'm thinking that they're the little ones, and they're going to morph into the bigger ones. They're going to grow into the big ones eventually, because they were thinner, they were mangy looking, they held their arms in a more creepier, like a praying mantis fashion. Their palms down, and they had claws, and they had ears on the top of their heads, straight up. And I kept thinking, what are you? What are you? What are you? I know what it looked like to me, but I wouldn't, I was thinking, oh my God, that can't be.
Yeah, and how intelligent do you think they were?
The ones during the day, which were come to find out dogmen, which I find out in the book later on, they weren't very bright. They were more animalistic, and they kind of didn't cooperate with each other. If one wanted to move, he would just move. They were like simpler form, like less of a organized tribe. Whereas the Bigfoots, the other ones, they were way organized, way more organized. When they wanted to move, like I would see them in the forest during the day. Now I see them even today, they're still there. But they would come into the forest, and they look like dark shadows, which is kind of weird, even though I keep trying to film them. But they come into the forest, and they look like shadows. And if they want to move, when they go to relocate, they'll shake that whole forest. They will shake it. It'll start to move, the trees and everything. Everything will start to sway. And then they'll move as a unit. And they move very quickly. So it'll be shake, 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 move. Shake, 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 move. They are experts at hiding. They remind me of really something strange.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, some researchers in the Bigfoot field, and there's a lot, have talked about, these beings being interdimensional in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I am looking at it I don't know anything about them. All I do is write and record what I see. That's the whole books are about. I'm
Mm.
not an expert on anything, but I will tell you, these are the most bizarre things, and we've had things occur that do not make sense. Several things. And if I had to say, you have the people that believe that they're just physical creatures, okay? And that's all fine and dandy. But how can physical creatures, this is my question, how can they do things that are not normal? Okay, and meaning not normal is one night we were sitting here and it was banging on our front door. They tried to get into our house twice. And one night it was banging and banging the door. Um, our door has a regular handle and then it has a deadbolt, our front door. Okay, and what it did it to our French doors before, but we put cameras on it. But what it did was it pushed down the handle. They can turn the handles. They can open the doors. He pushed down the handle, okay, which disengaged the bottom of the door. But the deadbolt was still engaged. And and the door started banging. Bam, 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 bam. It was at 3 o'clock in the morning, which at the time I didn't know what time it was, because my husband and I are sitting up every night. We were sitting right here. We're 10 feet from the door. We got a camera shooting across the porch, so we couldn't see directly in front of the door.
But
We
you
got
could,
cameras shooting across the front yard.
but
We got cameras.
you could see it from the rear. You could see the creature from the back,
No, no. We could not see it at all.
even though it was
Not
at
at
the
all.
front door.
It was at our front door and we could not see it at all.
That is
But we didn't
bizarre.
have a camera on the front door. It was shooting across the porch. The front door is a little to the right. Okay? But you can't get to the front door unless you cross that camera. You cannot get to our front door unless you cross the camera.
And when it crossed the camera, did anything get recorded or picked up?
No, it never crossed the camera. It never crossed the camera. It didn't even cross when we went out looking for it. When we went, my husband ended up circling around the fence to look over the fence.
That is
We've
bizarre.
got cameras covering the whole front of the perimeter. We've got them, covering the front of the house. We did not see it at all.
Isn't that
At all.
how bizarre is that though? That it nothing. Well, how the hell did it move then? I mean, how did it get away?
I have no idea. And I'm going to tell you something. I've seen things, and watching them and doing things that they blow your mind. And I don't know if they just move that fast or something's going on.
Yeah.
Something's not right about them
No.
because I've recorded audio. This another thing when they mimic us or we record sounds or I have a lot of audio recorded. And on the audio you can hear chanting. Like a chanting sometimes, a jingling and chanting. Like like somebody would have a tambourine. You'd be going ching 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 and chanting, which I think is to me
That's
that's pretty
incredible. So,
yeah.
by getting to observe them and having some of these terrifying experiences, which we'll get a bit more into as well, the picture's got a completely more confused understanding of it than just knowing that that they were there in the sense of seeing them from a distance to begin with. Now getting to sort of witness some of their behaviour and how they've managed to avoid any security systems as well. It doesn't seem to make a lot of logical sense as far as we understand, does it?
No. And being in the situation, observing them, documenting it, writing down the incidents that have happened, there is no answers for some of it. And I don't claim to try to answer them because I have no idea. It's like I tell people, I just write what happens, literally. What is happening, what we see, what we had. I don't know how they're doing things. I don't know how they get around things. I don't have any clue. All I know is this is what's happening to us. And we have other things in the neighborhood. Don't get me wrong. There are shadow things. I've got a video of a shadow running across the yard. I've got videos of ghosts. I mean, there are other things happening all around us all the time. I don't know how any of it happens. I don't study or read any about any of this. I'm just trying to survive. And you have to think, as I'm writing these books, we are going through it. We are still here, and this is still happening. So I'm writing things down. We don't even have time sometimes to recover from one incident, and we're already looking at another one. or something else has already happened. And these things are running circles around us. And we, thinking that we're intelligent people and we can, defend ourselves. No. I think like for instance, when I found out that the other ones were dog mambies, okay, the investigator told me, all I did, he doesn't really tell you much. All I do is explain to him what I'm seeing, what they're doing, what I'm looking at. And then he says, oh no, oh no. And when you hear oh no, you kind of think, oh my God, what did I do? Or what is it now? And then he told us there are types of Bigfoots, which I didn't know. I didn't know there were several types. I thought there was just the one. Wrong. But I mean, he explains things to us, and when I find out that the one kind was a dog man, or what you would term werewolf, okay? Um, I mean, and he says, whatever you do, don't mess with them. Whatever you do, do not mess with them, okay? Because but people don't live after seeing these things, okay? That's just common. And here I am watching these things. I'm trying to take pictures of them. I am sticking video cameras in the window, stand in the window trying to film them. And I'm doing all this stuff, and they see me. They see me all the time. I could tell they see me because the patterns change. They'll like move, or they'll get out of the way, or they'll hide, or so they see me. And here I am trying to film them. I didn't know what they were. I just thought they were creatures, and I just film them. They're across the street, they're there. Why not? So I'm trying to film, but I'm a horrible person at filming in cameras. But I'm trying because I can't, see a lot through the lens. The lens is very small, the viewfinder. And here I am doing all this, and then he tells me, oh my God, is that what's there? During the day, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm seeing. He's like, no.
Well, isn't it incredible that even from that distance where you're filming from, they're consciously aware somehow that you're filming them, or that something, that you're filming them. I mean,
yes.
how is that
yes.
even possible unless they've got some sort of telepathy or
yes.
something like that to consciously connect with you?
Yes.
That's
something's going on, because in book 3, I write this chapter. Okay, it's taken me a while. I mean, we have progressed. We've learned a lot. Just raw data. But I will tell you, they know every time I'm filming them or trying to take a picture of them. They know, because I will start to film. Okay, I'll take the camera and I will start to film. And I mean, I'm hiding. I'm hiding behind the curtains, or I'm hiding. I'm barely sticking that lens out to try to film them. And I can get away with maybe 10, 20 seconds of filming, maybe a minute, and then all of a sudden you'll see that forest start shaking. And they're moving, and they have busted me. And you'll see things come throwing from the forest too. They'll start to throw things out of the leaves, and I immediately pull that camera. I have learned to leave them alone, to not try to film them, and to not bother them. Although I do still try every now and then when they're really irritating me. Like if I can, because I got cameras all around the house, and I can see when they're there. I can look at the forest and see it, and I could say, wow, you're really moving the forest today, or they're really doing something that's real obvious.
Yeah. Well, that's well, actually, you sent us some video footage as well. Now, on the video file that you sent us, or video footage, just explain to the audience what we're looking at in some parts of that video.
Well, I can't remember what I put on there. I have like a lot of video.
Yeah.
I know some of them I put. One day I filmed them. They're hard to it's hard to catch them because they look like they don't show up real good on camera, and I don't understand that. I don't understand why it's hard to get an image.
How is that possible? Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. And one day I was filming them, and you could see the arm fall from the tree. You could see it. And that was a good one I got because it made a mistake and moved. And they normally don't do that. Or if they do move, they're moving so fast you don't catch them. And I got that footage, and that's one of the videos I sent. Or, a snippet. All these videos that I made for you and for your show is just a sample of the ones that I have on the internet, because the ones on the internet are full length, and there are also, more of them. But I sent that one, and I sent one of them rocking the trees. One day they were out there and they were rocking the forest. Oh my God. And the big trees were just moving back and forth, and they're all in that video too, but there's so many that it's hard for me to decipher all of them because everything's moving, and then I sent a video of, I believe the one, trying to think of the ghost. I know I sent you the ghost by the pool.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, you've sent audio files as well, and one of them. I tell you what, let's just listen to just a couple of them, just quickly, sort of back to back. We've got mimic and language. Okay, so now we've listened back to those files. I mean, these were captured. How were these captured again?
these we have we had a monitor at that time,
Right.
and it was hooked up to cameras, and it had audio on it. And so what we would do is we would turn on the microphones outside, and then I would place one of these little handheld recording devices. It's a little handheld one. And I would turn it on and hit record and place it by the
Oh
speaker in the
yes, yes.
house.
Yeah.
And that's how we recorded because we also needed to hear what was happening outside. So it would do me no good to just record audio outside when we couldn't hear it. We needed to hear it, and then we recorded it. So it wasn't like we were trying to capture evidence of them. It was the fact that we were trying to know when they were around.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that I recorded it because I could. You could record it, but we needed to listen to it. And everybody thinks that, I get a lot of people saying, well, you want all this, you post all this evidence. Not really. I posted pretty much what I've seen. Everything I talk about in the book, I usually have a video for or something that says, hey, this is what we saw. I try to capture as much as I can. But I am not trying to provide evidence with the cameras and the audios, and all that. It just so happens I have it. We are trying to keep them away from us, and they stay away from your cameras, and that's why we have so many. I'm not looking to get a picture of one. I just want them to stay away from the house. And that's what we've learned to do over time, was you have to set one camera so it views the next camera, and then you view that camera to view the next camera, so they can't turn the cameras or destroy them. And so what we've done is we built a perimeter around us to cover the entire exterior of the house at night and during the day, because that's also a mistake we made. They come out, they don't just come out at night. They're not just around at night.
No,
And
no, and this is incredible. This really is. I mean, and it's not like you're going to advertise to people where you're based, because you do not want the circuses coming, on your doorstep and all the attention that it would cause, which I
yes.
completely understand. And we're able to say, well, I mean, I don't even know where you are, but we're able to say that you're in the south of America, somewhere on the south side of America.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
we're in the South.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
well, the reason why we don't want to know who we are and all that stuff is because we are in a neighborhood. And I know people, when you think of Bigfoots, you think of these creatures, and I do mean creatures, and all this stuff. You don't imagine it being in a middle class neighborhood. You think out in the middle of nowhere. We're in the middle of a city. We're 5 minutes from all the food eateries, the McDonald's, the Taco Bells, everything. And we are not isolated somewhere. It just so happens we're the last house, and the housing tract and our corner is isolated. Very isolated,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay.
But no.
Do we have you dug into the history of this land?
Yes, I found out some of the history of the land, and the historian told me a lot, so it kind of gets confusing. They get really detailed, and evidently, from what I've heard, and I've heard it from a few different people, so you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt, because some people that lived here and some people that historians can vary on it. But evidently, the main street of town wasn't a main street. It got incorporated around the 1970s. I guess this part of this city that we live in. And since then, it's grown exponentially. Okay, it grew like literally overnight. I think the town's population or the unincorporated area at that time was probably about maybe 100 people. And come to find out, there were a lot of chicken farms. All in this area and all around this cordon, there were chicken farms where they had, chickens. People raised chickens, and that's my understanding. And according to the investigator, see, any type of creek is very important for fresh water. And I guess years before that, which I don't even, I guess there were, people, Indians and things like that, maybe near the creek or down further by the creek. The creek is always a source, and it's a freshwater creek, so you get all kinds of things that come to that. But that's from what I understand. But the city grew. The city grew so rapidly. I'm trying to think of when, but it all of a sudden became a city, and then it grew rapidly.
Yeah, yeah.
But the city next door was the one that held. It didn't really have a lot of county records because the town next door, the sheriff's department and the police, the newspaper articles, they covered this area.
Well, I just wondered if there was any sort of strange stories that sort of correlate with what you're saying.
Yes.
It's almost
the
like
one story that I think of that I wrote in the book was where we met this young man who used to live on the other side of the forest, and he talks about when he was a child how they used to play in the forest. All the kids did, and until one day the adults told him they weren't allowed to play in there anymore, and the kids couldn't understand because they always played out there. And he told us that years later he found out why. They told him, "Don't you go in that forest because you're gonna, you know better. You're gonna get it." And they couldn't understand it. But he said later on they found out why. Evidently, they found a bunch of chickens in the forest that were eaten and dismembered in a sacrificial way. That's what he told us. He said it was a horrific scene. And the adults found it, and the adults went into the forest, and the police, I guess they have the local, whoever was here at the time. And he said that that's when they told the children, "You're not allowed to go back in there." And he doesn't know what it looked like. We asked him, we said, "Well, what it looked like?" He said, "They didn't tell us all the details. They just said it was bad to where they didn't want anyone in that forest." And that's just on the other side of this right here, this entrance to us.
Isn't that straight sacrilegious? Yeah. Have you ever heard of the case, the Skinwalker Ranch?
Yes, I have. I heard of that.
Is there any similarities, do you think, with what you've been experiencing? Is there more than just the Bigfoot? That's my kind of question.
Oh yeah, there's more than just.
Which
Bigfoot.
is which is what it goes into book 3 with, which you're doing now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if there's more than Bigfoot, and there's more than the Wolfman, sorry.
Those I haven't seen. I have to say, I only saw those during those few months.
The Dogman.
Yeah.
If there is more than to this than that, then this I wonder what this land is hiding, in the sense of some sort of parallel doorway maybe, or something that's allowing something else to come through.
Yeah.
I know that sounds a bit crazy.
No. I'm gonna tell you right now. Okay, I have seen things, I have experienced things, and there is nothing crazy out there. Nothing. I wouldn't put it past anything for when somebody tells you this is what's going on and this is what's going on. And they've seen things like I've seen. You believe everything, because there is no explanation for some of this stuff. And this is to the point where it's really, really scary, where you feel like there is something else. My kids have talked about it, and they've thought of other things, another dimension in time, this and that, and it's very scary, but it's all plausible. It's plausible because things don't make sense, and you're trying to figure things out. You can't make sense of it. It doesn't warrant it.
But
There's
who
nothing.
can you speak to about it in authority, in the sense that that would take you seriously?
I don't know. I don't know, but I will tell you this. If an authority wanted to come here, they could buy my house and have at it. And it would be a huge, huge experiment. I am not brave enough, nor do I want to know half of this stuff. I don't want to know half of what I know.
So,
I'm terrified. I don't want to know. I don't even want to think past the physical world, because if you do that, which I know there are things beyond that, because things have happened beyond that, um, it just gets scary. It gets really scary. And you have a lot of people with different point of views, such as ghosts, entities, demons. You get all that. And there is truth to all of it to a certain degree.
I
And
mean,
that's what gets really scary, because you're thinking this and it's this, and you're thinking this and it's this. And then people will say, oh, well, this is common to this and this is this, and you can get very confused very quickly.
oh yes,
And so that's why I try not to. I know these things are happening and I know this is happening, and we try to head it off, as fast as we can. However, I don't try to dwell into it, because you would just go nuts. You can't say, why is that thing running across my lawn and there's no image there? Why
yeah.
is there a shadow running across the lawn?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we can only see so much of the spectrum of light, with our eyes.
Mhm.
It's like a radio. Unless it's tuned into a specific frequency, you're not going to hear that signal. So maybe there's something greater with these beings that they're able to do, or they're tuned into a different type of frequency. I don't know. Whether they're as scared of you as they are as you are of them, who knows?
Yeah.
Whether they're benevolent in a sense, I don't know. But there's something going on, as you say. Now, if
Yes.
he was
Oh,
going to,
I don't. They're not afraid of us.
no,
No.
okay, okay,
The only thing they choose to let you see them. Okay. They choose. The thing about it is, as a person, or as we are human, we don't choose anything. Okay. They choose. And if they want you to see them, you're going to see them. And if they don't want you to see them, you're not going to see them. So I've learned that these things are occurring. And I'm lucky to catch footage of these things. I've got another footage of a glowing thing that ran across the street and jumped in the forest. And I'm going to
that's
release that in
incredible.
book 3.
That's
I'm going
incredible.
to release some more stuff, and I'm going to release another one. I've got some other ones that you are lucky to catch them. And if you do catch something, it's strictly by coincidence.
So,
I
so,
film everything by
so
coincidence.
it's potential here that you're on a hot spot, and maybe the water as well. Maybe the ley lines and something to do with the water has got something to do with it,
Yes.
and may
Yes.
and that's incredible in itself. Now, if you were going to sell the property, and I'm you can tell me in a minute if you've tried or thought about it or not.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, would you have to be honest with those that are going to move in?
Okay, this is the dilemma. Okay, because by law we don't have to. Okay, it's not legally that we do, because we have no control over it. It's not like I, called those creatures or done anything like that. I don't have any control over what they do. Okay, but here's where you get into the conflict, because is it right? Is it right to sell the property without telling them? And in my opinion, I go through this trauma because in my opinion, it's not. You can't do this to somebody else. We've gone through heck. And will it happen again to the next family? I don't really know. But they're here. And so, you know, what do you do? My husband says, he's on the other side of it. He's like, forget it. We're not responsible for other people, and we need to get out of here. And we've tried to sell it, where I've tried to stay away from the people, because the property value is not there. It's dropped considerably and we're having a hard time. And we have to do what they call for sale by owner. And even that, we'd be lucky to get out from under it, because we put a lot of money into it. And I can't do that. I can't, I can't. It's hard. It's very difficult for me. I'm a woman, and I guess we have more emotion. I don't know. I mean, I know I'm emotional around half the time, but for him, it's like, we get out of here, and but I can't live with that. I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time, okay?
Yeah,
'Cause it's not
yeah.
right. It's not right, but
No, that's a difficult
what
situation.
responsibility do we have? What do we have? I don't know.
Yeah,
You're in a you're what I would like, this is why I go on the radio shows. What I would like is I would like someone that wants to deal with these things. And I mean, seriously, you want to deal with some stuff. I would like someone who knew about me, who knew about the books, would be interested in purchasing the property. That would be the best case scenario because then they would know what they were getting into. I just hand them the books and run. Say, here you go. Good luck. Um, but, and I'm hoping for that. And I do get people after the shows, sending me emails saying, I want to buy your house. But then it's just they want to know the location. And it's very disappointing. But I don't know what's going to happen or what we're going to do. But we have to get out of here. We can't stay here anymore. It's been 3 years. We're now, surrounded by cameras, surrounded by alarm. I've got alarms. I've got sensor alarms around the house. So you come within 50 feet of the driveway or the front porch or whatever, them things go off. It's like, bap, 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 bap. I mean,
is there still violent behavior in a sense from these creatures, or has it calmed down a lot in the sense that they're not attacking your property or attacking the cars or whatever it may be? Has it
yes.
subsided
It
a
has
bit?
calmed down quite a bit from the very beginning because we have learned that we leave them alone, they will more likely leave us alone. And we stay out of the forest. We don't go in the forest, and they won't come banging on our house at night. Because if we go out in the forest, that's why I said that when he was trying to get into the house, banging on that door, a few days before we went into the forest to check out to see if they were still there because it was quiet. It had been quiet for a while, and I hadn't seen them. And I thought, wow, maybe they're gone. There's always hope because they're still building housing tracts around us. And so we're thinking they're cutting off their territory, and eventually they will, get cut off their pathways. But it's not working. But we have learned we have rules, and as long as we stay within the rules, we are at less danger. I won't say we're not ever out of danger,
Yeah.
but we don't go outside at night. You don't go walk around the house at night. We keep the dogs in at night as much as possible. We they drink out of our swimming pool. Okay, we have a swimming pool, and for a period of time after it tried to get in the house the first time, I said, forget it. Let them have that pool. They can have that yard. There's no way we're going to be doing what we're doing because we used to chase them with guns. My husband and them used to go out there, and every time they'd get near the dogs or, whatever, the dogs would be nuts. And we'd go out there every time we heard every noise, every sound, every time they banged on the house, every time they did their little shenanigans, we would hunt them down. We'd say, okay, get out of there. Let's find out what's going on. And we stopped that immediately. The
Incredible.
first time it tried to get into the house, when it tried that French door and I was sitting there and that turned that handle, it was like, that's it. We put cameras on the doors now. So we have cameras literally looking at our door. All we look at is a door and a handle all night. And that's what keeps them off the doors.
When
That's the only
when
thing we
when
can
when,
do.
when when do you sleep?
We try to sleep in the morning, like during the day. I'll take a nap. I probably sleep maybe, and me personally, maybe 3 or 4 hours during the day sometime. But even that, we have incidences during the day. So it's hard. It's difficult because I don't
What?
get much sleep,
No,
and
no.
your health really suffers.
Well,
I'm
you
gonna tell
can't.
you,
Yeah,
your
well,
health
absolutely
suffers.
it does, and you can't keep doing this. I mean, what would you what would you want the solution to be? Where do you see this going in a sense? Where would you like it to go? Can you
Well,
can you communicate with them telepathically and just send loving thoughts out there in a sense that you want
no.
this to end? No.
I don't send loving thoughts. I sit here at night going, oh my God, please don't come near our house. Please don't come near our house. Please don't. That's all.
Are you attracting that? Do you think?
There was a period of time where I figured maybe we were attracting something. Yes. And that maybe, you know, uh, you have to consider everything. You can't be closed
Absolutely.
off to
No.
everything, okay?
No.
And when we had incidents happen inside the house, and I mean some really bad incidences, um, which leads to other entities, but you have to assume that Maybe you're at fault um, after 2 years of going through all this, of creating a poltergeist or creating something that's happening or drawing them towards you,
Drawing them
drawing
towards,
things
yes, yeah,
towards you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Now I can go with that. Drawing it towards you because
Yes,
it may be
because you're
put.
so terrified and you're
Yeah,
going
yeah,
through
yeah.
so much
And
that
something
you're
that's
open to that.
not what it is parades as something else just to give that appearance because it can.
Hmm. Yes. There's a lot of stuff. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of things, and you have to consider everything. You can't, you're trying to stay sane, and things are happening that are insane, and you're
No,
you're trying to
absolutely.
debunk everything. You're trying to make sense of things. You're
That
trying to
it's a big shift.
think,
Yeah.
maybe it's something I'm doing. I'm obsessed. I can't stop. I'm having all these nightmares, all these problems, and then our middle son, who's going through a lot, because he saw him face to face twice, and I mean he's going through a lot, and he's going through a lot at his job. I mean, there's a lot going on, and so you have to think, are
Is it
we
my
creating
energy? Yeah,
this?
yeah. Is it my energy that they're
Mm-hmm.
not feeding on, but they're reciprocal too because
Hmm.
they're that sensitive in a sense where they have these abilities and they're just kind of attracted to it.
Yes.
Maybe yeah, if you come from a different space, who's to say that they would it wouldn't calm down even more. Um, it's I don't have any answers. I'm just it's I don't know really what to say except for trying to say something positive in a sense.
Yeah, and the investigator that we have, who's a very nice gentleman, he says to him it's different because he's not afraid of them. He investigates them he does it all the time. He's goes in the woods all. I mean, he's totally opposite from us, okay? And he told us a long time ago, he said, they're just messing with you. That's how he calls it. They're just messing with you. They're just having fun. To them, it's like, let's go bang on their house and climb up on their roof and do all these things to them and laugh about it. It's entertainment. And that's what he
Could
pointed
be.
out
It
to
could
us
be.
in the last, in the end of the last book that I wrote. um, this is what he's telling us. He's saying, they're going to show themselves to you. They're going to do all this stuff because basically it's all fun and games.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
then we learned to try to ignore them. Then after that, we tried ignoring them. It was like, well, we're giving them attention, and any attention given is not good. And so we tried to, when they bang on the house or when they do this and do that, we try to ignore it after that. That's why I said we let them have the pool. It was like, okay, you want to go in the pool and drink? We don't care. We're not going to chase you. We're going to totally not ignore them, but try not to respond to everything.
yeah.
Not respond. Only on the parts where they try to get in the house and something like that, we had to respond. But
What
other things, try not to.
what would you want to leave the audience as a last message? Would it be, what I mean, I know we've just to let you know before we do that. Sorry, before we do that, is that your book has been coming on on the screen. The book's available from Amazon and all good bookstores, well, the books, shall I say, and your website's been coming up as well, where you can get the books and links to the books and everything there as well. But what would be as your final message as we get to the end of the show here? What would that be to the audience?
It would be never, always expect the unexpected, and never ever doubt everything. Okay, don't doubt it. And if you knew what I knew about the world around us, it's very disturbing. And don't ever think that when someone tells you something that's really out there, that it's not true. Because um, I've seen things, witnessed things that should not ever happen, and they do. And it's very scary, and it shakes your very being because you don't know why this is happening to you. You don't know why. So I would say just don't doubt. Don't be so quick to doubt someone when they tell you something. And um, we really need to think about and research these things because there's a lot of them and they can really run circles around us. And we really need to be aware. That's what I would say, you know.
Well, Christine Parker, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. And I'm really grateful that you contacted me from England, British. I really love, England. And I'm really happy that they've taken an interest.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.